Help, I'm pushing up,
Rotate.
Bruno, they're rotating back. They're rotating back.
They're gonna go, just rotate, guys, just rotate, give it up. Nice, rotate.
Greetings and welcome to the Rotation Podcast with your boy Zhack. It feels good to be back. The Call of Duty League is finally here, and we are starting with the Kickoff Classic this week. As I'm recording this on Friday night, we'll be seeing all these matches laid out on Saturday, and we're going to jump into those, all the insane storylines that we have going a little bit later on in the show. And speaking of the show, it is jam-packed, and we have a lot to talk about today. So without further ado, let's hop right in with some First Blood and my initial takes and what I'm sort of feeling right now that I want to unfold for you guys. A thought that has been going through my head week in and week out throughout the offseason as we finally approach the 2021 season, the second year of the Call of Duty League as we switch over from the CWL and MLG tournaments and things of that nature. The fact of the matter is a new generation of Call of Duty is upon us. And what I mean by that is we see just this past week a guy like Zuma who has to retire from an injury, and that was something heartbreaking throughout the community. And I think all of us sort of felt that way, seeing him grow up in FaZe Clan, watching him, Clayster, Attach, and all those guys compete in tournaments for so long, and how successful and how he paved the way for so many other players. It hits you deep to see someone like him have to retire, and the way he's going out with an injury is even worse, because you guys know Zuma, the Italian stallion. He wanted to compete, he wanted to keep playing, but he's physically unable to. So seeing someone like him have to retire, Karma is gone, Aches and Haggy, those guys are down in the challenger scene right now. JCap is a coach. Who knows how long Scump has left? He's talked about it on Hector's podcast with him. He says, it's as long as I want to compete, really, in the drive that I have. It could be 3 years, maybe 4 years tops, is what Scump has said. So us growing up and watching this generation of COD leave us and all these new players run in, it's sort of a bittersweet feeling. And looking into the future like that, it almost feels like I'm looking down as an outsider through a different lens and like a microscope, and I'm watching all of this unfold and slowing down and taking a second to think all of these legends, if you will, throughout the Call of Duty scene for however long, where it started on YouTube and back in the MLG and Justin TV days, and then they move over to Twitch, the competitions that Adam Apicella has run with MLG and the Call of Duty World League, the open brackets, and then group play, and then Anaheim, all these events that have been prominent throughout the history of Call of Duty, and all the players who have been a part of it and made it happen. We don't know how long that these guys have left, and it brings a sort of sadness around me that I feel, and I can kind of compare it to sports in the NFL as we're seeing something this season with guys like Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, and Tom Brady. Those are all guys that I watched up growing play football, that I grew up watching play football, and now they're all out the window. Who knows how long Tom Brady is going to play for? He's the GOAT, and it feels like whatever he has going on and however he's keeping his body in shape, it's never going to stop working. But we literally saw him just take down Drew Brees and pretty much force Drew Brees to retire with that horrible performance he had in what looked to be his final game. Phillip Rivers, he's just announced retirement, and all these guys are gone, but that's not too much of a bad thing, because we have this new up-and-coming fresh talent and the young guns. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, we love watching those guys. Lamar Jackson, they're so electric and dynamic, and they may be a little bit different than the old heads, but they're just as talented, and they bring in the revenue and the ticket sales and everything that the NFL wants. And I think comparatively, we can talk about the Call of Duty League, and when Zuma is gone, Karma's gone now, Aches, Doug Sensor Martin, Haggy, JCap, all these well-renowned names who are gone, Scump, Formal, who knows how long they have. Look at all the guys who are coming into the league. Shotzi, Simp, Abizi, he's been around for a little bit, but all these young guns and rookies, Illy, Huke's been around forever, but these new names in Call of Duty particularly who have started winning, they bring so much excitement to the game, and they make it so fun to watch. So I think the new generation of Call of Duty that's upon us within the next couple of years, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but for a fan of the Call of Duty League, and been a fan of competitive Call of Duty for so long. You guys all know me. I've been watching since Black Ops 2, basically, back when Farico Impact was running it up, and Haggy was one of those guys there. all those old names and familiar faces, they're dissipating. We're having to learn new guys, but they are coming up and they're proving themselves. You see Shotzi and Simp, those guys look like Patrick Mahomes with the plays they're making on the map and their wins above replacement average and how important they are to their team and how much they can make happen on the map. I think that we're in for generation to generation, and the Call of Duty League is just getting bigger and bigger. There's more money getting thrown into it. We're franchising now. All of these things are so important, and these are the faces of the league, and they're the ones who are going to grow the league and bring in more revenue, bring in new fans. And I think that these guys like Scump, Formal, Zuma, Karma, they're all handing it off. It's like the Ninja Turtles meme where it's the old Ninja Turtle with all four of the other guys, and then it flips to where they're all grown up and helping him and going around. That's what's happening. The torch is being passed throughout the Call of Duty League, and it's a bittersweet feeling because it saddens me to know that some of these guys that I grew up watching and idolizing and emulating their play style when I'm in pubs and when I'm in ranked play, which we're about to have now in Cold War, that these guys are going to be gone soon. We're not going to be able to watch them play anymore. So we have to appreciate it while they're here, but we also have to look forward to the next generation and what they are going to bring. That's my first blood take, and that's just something that's been on my mind for the past couple of weeks now as the Call of Duty League is about to start back up. Let me know what you guys think about that, but now it's time to transition. Let's get into the barracks news and notes from around the league. So as the Cold War season is about to kick off, I think that the initial thoughts of the game are something that I wanted to touch on and what we can expect to see in competitive so far this season. And the offseason has been insane. It's been roster mania. It's been the switch to 4v4 and then GAs. You have to talk about them. You can't push them to the side, but there's just been so much going on. So I think we can break it down piece by piece. I'm here to give my initial thoughts on everything that's going on. And we're going to start with Cold War as just a game in general. Straight up, I love it. I think it's an incredible Call of Duty. It reminds me of the old Black Ops games. I know the advanced movement mechanics are back with sliding and the slide cancel and the way you can sort of break cameras now that they've implemented that into the newer Call of Duties. But I'll tell you what, this game feels really smooth. The gunplay feels terrific. And something that's kind of gotten on my nerve is the way that this game felt like there could have been 3, 4, maybe even 5. Maybe I'm getting a little out of hand there, but maybe 3 or 4 viable guns in each class that we could have seen in competitive, and it could have switched things up and brought so much more light and creativity and fun from a viewership perspective. But then GA sort of got in the way, and I'll talk about those in a little bit. That's going to be a completely different topic. But the general game in particular, I think Cold War shapes up to be an incredible competitive game this year, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot of awesome matches throughout the CDL. There's going to be a lot of round 11s. There's going to be a lot of premier players taking a map by storm and causing havoc, and I think a large portion of that is due to the fact that we're back to 4v4 now. I know you've seen players talk about it here and there and give their opinions on it, and a large majority of the population in the CDL, I think they can admit and agree upon the fact that 5v5 was a little bit less strategic, to whereas 4v4 you have to plan a lot more and you can get punished on the map for mistakes that you make, to whereas 5v5 you could have one guy hitting a certain lane or a flank and saying, I'm just going to throw my life away and ego chow an insane gunfight. If it works, it works and we get map control, but if not, I die. You guys can 4v5 to break into a hill or a bomb site or a point on control, to where now back at 4v4 it's a little bit more particular Call of Duty style. You have to play a little bit slower and meticulous, and you have to map yourself out and pick your strategies out and what you want to do and how you're going to break hills and how you're going to be able to push into points. You can't simply rely on kills and gunfights and ego challenge. So I think that can be a rude awakening for a lot of players. I know the past couple of years in Black Ops 4 and then even Modern Warfare with 5v5, a lot of players hopped onto the scene out of nowhere, and a lot of it was because they were just superior with gun skill, and they could have that fast, aggressive pace of play style where they ego chow, they get rewarded, and they end up changing a map by themselves. But now I feel like it's almost learning the game all over for some of these players. So I think it'll be interesting to see if some of these names on rosters that we've had in the previous 2 titles, if they're going to be as much of an impact as they are in 4v4. I know everyone can learn the game the same, but some players, we know it. The first couple of weeks, they learn a little bit quicker than others. They find certain lanes, they find certain strategies in certain spots, and those will all be implemented throughout the year, and other teams will certainly catch up. But the initial first couple weeks, I think it'll literally be proven who has the experience with 4v4 and knows what they're doing and who doesn't. So I am stoked to be back to 4v4. I think it's a lot better Call of Duty, and I think a lot of people are excited for that. But initial thoughts, I think Cold War is a great game to be based around on a competitive league, and also 4v4 is going to be incredible. And just from watching Scrim so far, I know not all the teams are streaming, but you know, Optic has played pretty much everyone. You see Envoy, Formal, and Scump all streaming, and then occasionally the guys from Empire will stream. But even when they're playing 8s, I've watched Methods play. It looks like the competition is at a premium, and that's what you get with 4v4 and only 12 teams. You know, you have the 48 best players in the entire universe competing against one another. So it's a great platform to have the highest level of competitive play that we've seen in the past couple of years. So I think it's a good groundwork and a great serving dish to have the CDL on, and I think we're in for a lot of excitement. And with the CDL, I think we can jump topics here and speak about the league format. I love the changes that have been made from year 1 to year 2. Quite frankly, not having all teams from the CDL in a match every week, it loses sales if there were LAN events. It loses viewership, which loses money ultimately. So I think that the adjustment that has been made to have these sort of, if you will, these qualifiers to get seeding, and then these major events, which will have all 12 teams competing, where they get seeded based on how they do leading up to the major tournament, and then all of them are there and playing against one another. I think that is just a gold mine for the Call of Duty League, because if you have teams there, and it was even people in the CDL were discrediting championships last season. You know, if Florida, for example, or Toronto, when they won their home series, yeah, but if Empire, FaZe, Mutineers, or Optic weren't there, were you really even winning? If you didn't have the top tier talent when you won that home series, did you even really win the tournament? So I know that argument was played a lot with these majors. It's the creme de la creme. It's the best of the best. All the teams are going to be there. There's no excuses. You're going to get seeded based on how you play leading up to it, and you're going to be taking on everyone. And I think that gives us a lot of the potential to have great viewership. Now that Hector has Optic back and LA Thieves are in the league, that's not as big as a rivalry as everyone thinks it is. It's really just Nadeshot is the CEO of a team, and Hex, you know, used to be the CEO of when Nadeshot played. So I think people are sort of blowing that out of proportion, even though there will be a lot of implications on it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of shit talking back and forth between those guys just because who is involved in the teams. But that's not as big as a rivalry as it could be between, you know, Empire and NYSL this year, or Empire and Chicago Optic, if that's what we're calling it. That's what we're going with now. I'm going to mess up that name plenty of times this year. I'll probably call them a Huntsman a few times. Bear with me on that. But the rivalries like those guys, the FaZe Mutineers, FaZe Optic, all the top tier teams who are actually competing with each other week in and week out, and they have the storylines within the rosters of who's playing against who, those are the ones that will be highlighted when we have all 12 teams in the major tournament. So I think it was brilliant of the Call of Duty League to implement that format, and it doesn't get better than that. And I'm super excited to have this format. I eventually would love to see it, hot take here, but go back to how it was with the CWL. I know it's probably not going to happen because these teams and franchise owners are paying millions and millions of dollars to have one of the 12 spots in the league, but I loved it in the CWL. I mean, when you would have these open tournaments, there'd be the open bracket teams competing for 2 days just to get a shot at pool play, to compete against the top teams who have already made the brackets and in pool play. I would love to have something like that. I know we have the Challengers League, which is separate, and the CDL, which is separate, but I mean, wouldn't it be great to have all the Challengers teams in an open bracket competing? Then you have the pool play, the pool play comprised of, what would it be? you have, 4 pools of 3 teams of the CDL, and you round out the 4th team in each of those pools with the top 4 challengers teams, and then it's like the good old days. And that's when you get the players who are young and driven and have all the passion and are going against Chicago Optic or the Subliners, and they're playing against Clayster, and they say, I want to teach this old man a lesson. Like the SpongeBob meme, where it's like, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? That's the kind of drive that these challengers players are going to have. So I would eventually love to see the league take that route and have it where we can get some open bracket action, have these teams coming out of the challenger scene compete. I know it's not going to happen just for financial reasons, but I mean, crazier things have happened. But with that being said, expansion is a big thing that I have my mind on. I'm hoping by next year we have at least 16 teams in the league, because that heightens the competitive nature of everything so much more. You add more players who are stuck in challengers right now, even though they're top tier talent, they can come out, they have a chance in the CDL, and it's going to make things a lot better and for a lot more excitement. So I digress from the league format and what I want to see in the future, but talking about excitement and what we will be seeing this year, everyone has given me so much flack for this. I've heard so much shit on my opinion when I have brought this to light. At the beginning of this year, when Cold War came out and I was playing pubs, I said, I want score streaks in competitive this season. I heard everything. Everyone told me, you're an idiot. It ruins the game. Competitive integrity is thrown out the window. Score streaks don't belong in Call of Duty. Are you kidding me? Do you remember watching Infinite Warfare? When we would be breaking hills in Hardpoint and someone would get the Trinity rocket or a bombardment, down 100 points, be able to break that hill with a score streak and have an insane comeback? Do you know how exciting that is to watch from a viewership perspective? Streaks are everything. Modern Warfare was so boring. It was 5v5, hard aim a lane, ego chow a gunfight. If you break it, you win it. You get the hill. With score streaks, that makes players keep track of everything that's on the map and strategize around it. If you're having someone pop off, you say, hey, Krim is on a 6 streak to start this game, and I think he broke the first hill. He may have a cruise missile, and he's working on artillery. You're going to seek him out. You're going to try and kill Krim in that particular situation, and if you know he picks it up, you're going to play around that. You're going to communicate that and have to keep track of it as a team, and that's what some of these younger guys may struggle with who haven't been in the scene when streaks have been huge and prominent. Another example, do you remember Seaside Hardpoint in Black Ops 4? That was some of the best Call of Duty to watch. Some of the best comebacks came from specialists coming out or streaks coming out. Everyone told me I was naive and an idiot when I said I wanted to see streaks this year. Look how we're scrimming. Streaks are back, and I could not be happier. We got cruise missiles and artillery. That's the bare minimum. That's all I need. I don't need an RC car. I just need those two, and you watch how many fans you're going to bring to the CDL and how exciting the league will be this year from streaks. That is my rant for that, but I'm stoked to have streaks back. Something else that everyone is excited to have back is some of the throwback maps that have already been announced in the rotation coming back to Call of Duty. Hey, play on words there. The Rotation Podcast with Zhack. Get some of these old maps in the rotation. I love it. The biggest one that's coming is Raid, and as we all know, it was announced when the new season comes for Cold War that Express will be coming back. Not a lot of people like Express for all the game modes, but it was a great search and destroy map back in the day. I don't think anyone can negate that or go against it. But we've seen that Raid has already knocked out a couple maps out of the rotation, and it's in for pretty much everything. I think I was reading the Call of Duty League page today, and I'm pretty sure Raid is in for Control, Hardpoint, and Search and Destroy. It's good to have these throwback maps here. It works for the pacing. I've been one against maps coming back in Call of Duties when we've seen Crash every single year, because the timing gets thrown off from game to game, and movement mechanics are different. The pace is different in every game. But I'll tell you what, Raid feels so damn good in Cold War, and it's been incredible to watch throughout scrims. I think it's a great idea. I think it's awesome for the CDL and everyone who's making the competitive rule set to come together and say, listen, the players are saying a couple of the maps aren't that great. I get it. I'm not taking any offense to them saying that. let's go ahead and throw Raid in the rotation. It's not going to hurt to have one of the best maps of all time, one of the most historical maps in Call of Duty history to be in competitive this year. And I know that's been an argument that a lot of people have brought up, that we need to say for every year, like CSGO has had the same maps. Valorant will have the same maps with the picks and bans. Don't change it from title to title. Have a pool of throwback maps that we play, and a pool of new maps from the game that comes out that are good that we play, and we can veto those, pick those, and find a way to formulate those together and make it good for the Call of Duty League. I think it's great to have the throwback maps in. I think it brings a lot of excitement to everyone, and all the pros are liking it. No one that I've seen has really said anything bad about it, so I think it really doesn't get better at this point for the maps. But now it's time to get into the hard-hitting topic and the strong opinions that have gone from time to time and place to place from everybody. It's time to talk about GAs. Do they really promote the highest competitive integrity, or are things getting out of hand with the GAs? Like I mentioned earlier when I was introducing the podcast today, I thought that Cold War was set up to have some of the greatest diversity with how many guns were good to start this game. I thought the Krig was viable. I thought the AK-47 was viable, and I thought the M4 was viable in the AR category. The MP5 hammered. The AK-74U was great, and that gives you 2 subs and 3 ARs with almost a flex depending on what attachments you put on the M4, because it slays in close quarters right now, and that's sort of where the meta has shifted. That would be so much more exciting from a viewership perspective to have all this variety in different classes, and it brings so much more strategy into the game. When you have Octane holding down a lane and he says, hey, this map has a long sight line, I'm going to play with the Krig or the AK-47 right now. That's the strat we're running this game. You guys run and gun, I'll sit back, pre-aim, and hold those long lines because I'm one of the most lethal ARs in Call of Duty history. Now we're stuck. With GAs, we don't get the 47. We get limited attachments. It's the M4 right now. It's the Krig, and one of those might go soon enough. Who knows? I think that players have gone back and forth on it, and we've heard everyone talk about it. Clay talked about it at the beginning of Cold War. He said, let's get over this. Let's just play with everything. Throw UAVs, TAC rifles, LMGs out there. That's out of hand. We know that those are absolutely overpowered, but there's a fine line and a huge gray area with GAs, in my opinion, to the point where it's just, I don't like this gun, throw it out the window. Oh, I'm getting hammered by this gun this game, let's not use it anymore. Vote to GA in the Twitter group chat. Vote in the Discord. Hey, let's get rid of this. That's ridiculous. Give everything a chance. Give us a chance as viewers to see some of the variety and play off of our favorite players and see, oh my God, did you see Octane using the Krig this weekend? Did you see Simp? He didn't use the AK-74. He was using the MP5. That's what I'm using now this week when League Play finally comes out in Cold War. That's how kids think. To professional athletes, when they look up to them, when you're watching your favorite basketball player, you say, what shoes does LeBron James wear? I like basketball. I want to wear the same shoes he has. He's my favorite player. Give me a pair of his shoes. That's what I want for my birthday. Oh my God, my favorite hockey player is Patrick Kane. I want the Bauer APX 2 stick. Can you buy that for me, Mom? Can you buy that for me, Dad? Octane is using the Krig. Can I use that? Scump is using the AK-74U. I'm going to use that when I play. It's so much better for the game of Call of Duty when there's variety. And other players have touched on it too. Zuma says he doesn't even know anymore. When he was on Hector's podcast, and that was before his retirement, he said, I don't even know, man. I just wake up, and if someone says it's G8, it's G8, and I just play without it. That's the point he had gotten to. He didn't retire because of it. He retired because of an injury, but that was the point that Zuma was at. Attach says, I get it, but I think it's getting out of control. And I think that's where I sit. I think I sit with Attach, where it's good to get rid of the things that are heavily and extremely overpowered and ruin games, ruin the competitive integrity, but everything doesn't do it. At some point, you're just complaining because you're getting beamed and you don't have a good enough gaming chair. You're just getting had that day. Everyone has it. Steph Curry goes 3 for 15 from behind the arc. We go negative on maps when we play. You can't blame it on something else. You got to regain, get back into it. If they're using it, you can use it too. Have some variety, find the best meta, play with what you want to play with. I get GAs, but I'm kind of sick of how out of hand they're getting. On the positive side of things, we've heard that developers and the league have a better relationship with players this year, and they're talking about stuff and going through attachment by attachment, gun by gun, to find the best balance and best competitive playlist. That brings light to this. I see a light at the end of the tunnel, and I love it. I love that the developers are finally getting their hands dirty and communicating with players and saying, hey, listen, what do you like? What do you not like? What can we do to change things? And the announcement just came out. I don't know if it still holds true, but it looks like this year for the CDL, there's going to be preset classes that players have the option to choose from, because perks have been GA'd, perks have been banned, no gung-ho, no this, no that. So there's certain things that everyone can use. And from that part, as a viewer, I think it makes it easier to follow along for some of the new viewership, where they don't understand all the attachments, but some of the veterans, they would understand everything that the players have on. But those preset classes that the players have to pick from, if that actually comes true and holds for it for this kickoff weekend and throughout the season, it'll be great for new viewership, because they say, okay, this is a base class. I can go off of that. I can use that. This guy's using this. I can copy that completely and use it. But I just think it takes a lot of the variety out of the game. But I think it is great to see the developers hand in hand with the players and the CDL now. They're working things through. They're working it out, and they're trying to make this multi-million dollar league with multi-million dollar prize pools the most competitive it can be. I know we're probably going to be online for this year, and we all anticipated it, even though everyone's moving to Texas and we have our own little league bubble now. But I think everyone being in same communication, that will give us the best opportunity to have good and competitive integrity this year. I just teased it when I talked about it. Everyone's moving to Texas. Everyone's going to be there. We're all going to be playing the same servers. Things are going to be as good as they can be online. And I think that will help bring competitive integrity this year too. Not a lot of people are away in the central servers when they're going through the picks and bans and the vetoes of maps and servers. It makes things a lot better and a lot more uniform now that a lot of these guys have moved to Texas, and it's the Call of Duty Texas League almost. I think it will shape up to be something good this year that players have decided to almost say, hey, we're all moving to Texas. I mean, you're shit out of luck if you're not coming, because our internet is some of the best internet, and you're going to be getting had online if you're not here. So now all the players pretty much in the Call of Duty League have made their way over to Texas, and that makes it a lot more feasible for these players to be in this tight spot, have the best internet possible, and go with that against each other. I would still like to be able to see maybe a little bubble just for champs. I definitely don't think it's going to be able to happen for every major tournament. The finances just aren't there. We've seen how much it costs the NBA, the NHL. NHL almost went bankrupt after having a bubble. They have to have sponsors on their helmets now because they didn't have enough money to complete the bubble for the Stanley Cup playoffs. The NBA spent millions upon millions of dollars to have a bubble. It would be tough for the Call of Duty League to do. If they could do it for champs, I think they should, though. The highest prize pool, the most competitive time of the year, if it's possible at the end of the year, let's try and make it happen. I think it's a good thing that everyone's in Texas now, and I think it will bring a lot of good storylines and also a lot of good content also. If people are right down the road, they could throw a rock, hit the Hex quarters. Or they could go to the Envy place where Hastro and his guys are with the Empire. It's going to bring a lot of good opportunities for content to be had by all these players this year, and I think it's something exciting to have. And I think that's kind of my final thoughts on the situation. Before that, I digress. Let's move on. CDL storylines, we can kind of get into more and more of movement around the league, roster changes, roster mania. We'll talk about that when I do a breakdown of the power rankings of the team so far this year. So the last thing I want to talk about in the Barracks news and notes around the league is the challenger scene and the implications that it has on the league. Westar is dominating. Those guys are cracked, and they can't be stopped right now. I think it's good to have them running through the Challengers scene because we see how much talent there is in the Challengers League from names we haven't heard, like Paul X, like Zaptius, who have been running around. Granted, you look at guys like I Hold Shift and all those guys who cast the Challenger scene in College COD. They know all these guys. They've been scouting them for years, and they do a great job on it. But these guys are up-and-comers for the CDL, and we also have old names in the CDL who are competing in the Challengers League from the CWL who haven't been in the league for a while. Nagafin and his team. Mox is competing. Haggy, Akes, Lacefield, all of these former pros have been bumped down to the Challengers League, and I think there's a short leash for a lot of the players in the CDL. If you're not cutting it, if you're not doing it for our team this year in this most competitive league in the world, look at this talent pool that we have to look from. You're not guaranteed. If you're having a bad year and something goes wrong with the team and the chemistry, you're replaceable like that. I can go sign Paul X to a contract right now and you're replaced. He's in the league. You're down to challengers. So I think it gives a lot of the drive to the challengers guys to perform their best because they're being seen from all these professional teams. And it also lights a fire under the ass of all these professional players if they're not having a good season, because there's always the chance that they could drop down to the challenger scene and lose their spot in the CDL. I think the challenger scene and how big it is this year, it's one of the greatest things of all time. It will make for the most competitiveness in the scene down there, and also the most competitive league in the CDL because they have a chance to be replaced. And I think everyone has talked about this already. We all know where we stand. We need to get an anti-cheat because the integrity in the challenger scene, it's not the best. The CDL, it should be good. I mean, these guys are professionals. They've been around the league long enough. They shouldn't be cheating. They're all on PC. They're going to be monitored by officials. But in the challenger scene, we've seen accusation after accusation, and we need an anti-cheat. If we don't get one quick, things could go south real fast. Other than that, the challenger scene is great. I think that it's something that's incredible to have in the Call of Duty League. We got to keep it up. We got to continue it. And that's all I have for the Barracks news and notes from around the league. And now it's time to get into one of the most exciting things, one of the juiciest things, and one of the things that you guys can all hold me accountable to this season. We're going to hop right into the power rankings and my CDL predictions for this season. We're going to go team by team. I have my tier list built. Shout out to my boy Nameless for putting this together, giving me the opportunity to do it. And what you guys are about to be seeing, it is not the exact same thing as what I'm going to be telling you because things have changed in the past couple of days. Players have moved around and things are different. But we're going to start from the top. We're going to talk about my top tier teams. These are the championship caliber teams. These are the guys who I think are going to be there at the end of the season. They're the ones who, without anything crazy happening, they're probably going to be top 3, top 4 every tournament, every major, and especially champs. Number 1 on the list, it has to be Dallas Empire, the defending Call of Duty League champions. These guys are built different, and they have a different drive and determination than anybody that I've ever seen. Crim6 is a veteran, and we've heard the type of stuff that has been said from his former teammates behind his back that he's kind of crazy, and when he talks, he'll just kind of break down and shut down almost and yell at you and just get pissed off and say, you're not doing good enough. Be better. I think he's been able to become a better leader as he's seen this new team and the drive and determination that the young guns have on his roster now with Hook, Shotzi, and Illy. Shotzi was disgusting. By far, in my opinion, one of the best players in Modern Warfare. An MVP. He was insane. And now that Crim6, a leader and a veteran, has passed on some of that leadership and veteran, those qualities to these younger players, and now they know how to talk and make calls and say, no, we're running this strat. We got to step up here. Get it together, guys. Settle down. I think it's huge. Illy is disgusting. Shotzi and Hugh are both gross, and those guys have learned the game quicker than anybody. You see when everyone is done scrimming and playing 8s, these guys are on, not even sleeping, and they're pub slaying. They're going to be playing in the competitive playlist when it comes out. They don't stop playing the game. Watch out for the Dallas Empire this year. They're a championship caliber team yet again. Next up, the Atlanta FaZe. I don't think that these guys have skipped a beat. They're picking up my number 2 spot in the power rankings for this season. The addition of Arcides is just incredible. He has so much passion, loves Call of Duty, and he'll slay out and make the right plays when he needs to. Him, Abizi, Simp, and Celium, they're going to be a problem on the map for every team this year. Simp is gross. I'll put it at that. He's the caliber of player that Shotzi and Hugh are. He's one of the best in the game. He will leave you scratching your head sometimes when he makes a play and he guns you, picks up a double, triple. You'll say, how the hell did he just pull that off? He's the playmaker. Sell and Abizi and Arcides, I mean, they're the standard guys where you know what you're going to get every day. I think the only one that you'd have to look to out of that squad is Abizi to keep up on his performance. Arcides is going to be great on the map every single time. Simp is going to be special. He's going to make plays that it's just like, wow, how is he doing that? At the end of the day, it's going to be the same championship look. Atlanta FaZe, Dallas Empire, if the bracket lines up, they're the champ caliber teams for this year. Dropping down now to the top tier players and holding the number 3 spot, I really think the Chicago Optic or Optic Chicago, however we're saying it, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with this season. Scump and Formal are kind of pissed off. They want to win. They had that taste back in IW when they won their first championship together. They want to have that taste of glory again. They loved their team last year, but it just ended up not working out. But I think it's even been said from Hector that if Envoy didn't clutch up that round 11 against the original or the stolen or bought out, however you want to pull it, against that Optic Gaming, when Envoy was on the Chicago Huntsmen, if he didn't clutch up that round 11, Hector may have never gotten Optic back. Nonetheless, he did. We're back in 4v4. Envoy, Dashy, Formal, and Scump. On paper, it's disgusting. If Dashy can be mature, and Hector's talked to him about that, if Dashy can be mature, do the things he needs to do as a professional, this is a professional league, and these guys can all listen to each other, because that's been a problem in the past with Scump and Formal. They've had clashing personalities with Karma and Crimsix. We're not going to sweep it under the rug. It's happened. Envoy's taken more of a leadership this role, and I think a leadership role this year, and I think that's something he needed to do. I think it's something that great. If these guys can stay level-headed with one another, there's no reason they can't be at the top at the end of the season, which is why I have them number 3. Down to number 4, and what a great storyline it is. The LA Thieves are joining the Call of Duty League this season, and it doesn't get better than that. Nadeshot is back in Call of Duty. He has the veteran slasher, Kenny, a.k.a. Quavo now. They pick up Temp and TJ Haley. I don't know if I can switch up and call Kenny Quavo or Quavo this season. I think I just like it as Kenny. And he's my dark horse as one to be one of the nastiest players in the Call of Duty League this year. I think he's going to run that team. I think he's going to be great, and I think he is one of the reasons why the LA Thieves are a top-tier team, in my opinion. I think it's plain and simple. Slasher, Lidicote, there's no N there. I mean, he's proven himself year after year, and he's going to do it again this season. Kenny's going to be there. It's up to TJ. We've seen TJ drop gooses and go double negative on maps. If he can stay consistent, the Thieves are going to be nasty. Putting them in the number 4 spot, I think I said that was Optic. I don't know. I can't remember. But Optic 3, LA Thieves 4. Next up, one that may surprise some people. I have the Minnesota Rocker at spot number 5. Attach accuracy, Major Maniac and Priesta were a steal. To have those two guys to sort of poach them from the Atlanta FaZe, I think that was an incredible move from the Rocker to make. Shout out Gary V. But Attach, the youngest winning player of all time, youngest champ ever, speaks for itself. He has the track record. Accuracy has proven himself. I mean, back in the Call of Duty World War II, gosh, was that even the title? It's so far now. Everyone kind of chalked that game. I know we've had World War II. He was disgusting. On TK, those boys, Kenny and Lamar, they were gross, and I think that he has the ability to be just as disgusting as we're now back in 4v4. Him and Attach are going to be a force to be reckoned with on the map. And Major Maniac and Priesta, I mean, they were sort of the sneaky assassins on Atlanta FaZe last year, and they're a top caliber talent to get on this team, and I think that's a great roster move for the Minnesota Rocker. Next up in the contender tier list now, Florida Mutineers. I think they have to figure out some small things, and they'll be able to be there. Skies, and now it's been announced that Neptune, I believe, is going to be in over Havoc, which I don't know if I like that move. But Skies, Awakening, Neptune, and Slacked. Basically, it's going to be how Slacked and Neptune form into this team in this attack. I think Skies and Awakening have proven themselves as two of the most disgusting players in all time. Awakening being accused of using a Cronus and cheating. I think he's just disgusting. And Skies, one of the best ARs in the game. I'd probably put him behind Octane, but the Florida Mutineers have the talent there. I liked Havoc. I love him as a sub. I love the things he can do in Search and Destroy. I love how he can break a map open for you. And now he's on the bench. So I don't know if I like the Mutineers at my 6th spot anymore, but that's where they're sitting right now. I think they'll be there to win. They won a couple home series last season. It's their time to shine. They have the ability to do it. We'll give them a shot. This one here may be the upset for a lot of people. Arguably the worst team in the league last season, the Seattle Surge. I think things are going to change and look up for them this year, and I'm putting them in my contender tier list, plain and simple. Octane is the best AR in the game, in my opinion. He was last season. That's been his track record. Me watching scrims personally, I've seen some people who may have a little bit better look in the AR role than he does, but I'm never going to doubt LaRue. He's one of the best. Gunless, some of the most passion I've ever seen out of a player in Call of Duty. He's back now. It's 4v4. It's his bread and butter. You can't count him out. Pristini is a player that plays with his emotion. I think if he can channel those emotions and keep them positive, then he's going to be on a good side of things. And then you have Looney to prove himself coming back into the league for the first time in a while. But these guys reign supreme in 4v4, and I think that they found their spot again, and they'll do the same now. That's where I have them placed. I have them in the contender division, and don't be surprised if they pull into the top tier this season. 4v4 is their game. Octane is disgusting. I think that the Seattle Surge may have a shot this season. This next one now is one that I may have to move out, so I'll talk to him as my, 5, 6, 7. I'll talk to him as my 8 spot, but I may move him down to 9 or 10. Keep that on your brain for now. The New York Subliners. Clayster goes there in the offseason after a 4v4 was announced. He was the lone wolf. He was the one that was dropped from Dallas Empire after the championship. He teamed up with former FaZe Clan teammate Zuma, and now we know he retired because of injury. That sucks. I think we've heard that Hydra has had some problems with his visa, so they have Mac, and then I think they just announced a sim. So they haven't had a lot of time to work together. There could be some conflict. They may not meld well together, and that's why I had them originally here in this 8 spot, but I think they may move back to 9 or 10. I'm going to have to see how they perform, but Clayster is a veteran. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to work with a team. He's a 4v4 god. He'll go down as a legend in Call of Duty history, and now it's up to him to rile in these young guns like Mac and when Hydra gets here. And a sim has been disgusting throughout scrims is what I've heard. Nameless was playing 8s with those guys, and he got gunned by him and said, wow, this dude is different. So New York has potential, but I don't know how they sit right now. I'll have them in there around 9 or 10. And then next up on the docket, the Toronto Ultra. How can you count out Methods? I love the guy. The king of chicken parm, Zinni, cooking it up. I think the young talent that he has paired with him is just going to make him even better. Kleenex and Cammy, I think they can be gods in this game now that we've switched over to 4v4. I think they were so good in Modern Warfare, and I think they'll transition it over. I think the odd man out is Bance. I don't know if Bance is going to stay there the entire season. He may get subbed out by one of those challenger guys, but I like Toronto Ultra. I like them a lot. I talked about it. I mean, it's going to be Cammy, Kleenex, Methods, and then whatever Bance can do. Methods, I have him as a top 3 AR probably. Top 5. Sorry, Methods. I'm kicking you out of top 3. Top 5 AR in the game, and I think they'll compete, and they'll have a top 4 placings. We'll see them a couple times this year. Next up, Paris. I think that they, it's been a little interesting the way that they have formed their roster throughout the offseason. Aqua, Classic, Scraps, and Fire. Fire and Scraps are the 2 best there. I have question marks above Classic and Aqua, but Scraps, Matty Marshall, he was in the Challenger scene for a while, and I was thinking, what the hell are these teams doing? How do you not get him and the twin Wuskins in the league? Now you got Scraps on Paris Legion. Him and Fire are gross together. I think that they'll compete. It's plain and simple like that. Now to the bottom tier players, the London Royal Ravens and then the LA Gorillas. I think those 2 teams are pretty much hand in hand. We're going to see them sort of struggle throughout here early on, and we'll see what they can do by the end of the season. But I have the Royal Ravens just a step ahead of the Gorillas. I don't really know how everything is going to shape out for both these teams, but the Gorillas, Vivid was gross in Search and Destroy. Apathy has to prove himself this year. Silly and Assault, the same. Plain and simple for them. Shawnee Zero, Dylan, and Alex, they look good in scrims the other day against Optic. I think they can make some noise for the Royal Ravens. But those two right now, just from seeing whatever happened last year and how things are going forward, those ones I'm having at the bottom tier as we start the Call of Duty League this season. So those are the power rankings. That's how they look right now. That's where things are sitting. As we get back in here and we hop into the final portions of the episode, we got to preview the opening weekend. It's the fan-voted weekend. Everyone picked the matchup, and we have the storylines here. We're going to get into the Kickoff Classic. I'm going to brush through them real quick. I've been talking your guys' head off. I've been talking my own head off. Might have to get a sip of water here pretty soon. But we'll get in here now and talk about the Kickoff Classic and the storylines that we have this week. The biggest one is the first one on Saturday, in my opinion. The Empire versus the Subliners, and we just talked about those roster changes with the Subliners, so that kind of sucks because previously it was going to be Crim 6 and all of Dallas Empire competing against the Subliners with Clayster and Zuma. Clayster has a chip on his shoulder. He was the odd man out, dropped by them as we switched over to 4v4. He was going to be pissed off going into that matchup. He still will be, but he's losing Zuma. They have visa problems now. I don't know how the roster is going to work for NYSL. I still think it's a great storyline and one to watch out for. LA Gorillas versus Seattle Surge. I mean, it's the bottom two teams in the league from last year. I think the Surge are going to handedly handle the Gorillas, if you will, dominate that matchup. So predictions for these two so far. Empire are going to win. Surge are going to win. Atlanta FaZe versus Mutineers. They've battled each other a couple of times last season. I don't think it's that crazy of a rivalry. I think Atlanta FaZe take it pretty easily. Then on Sunday, the two EU teams, London Royal Ravens, Paris Legion, not too much of a crazy rivalry there. I think Paris take it. Wherever Scraps is, I think that's who wins. So I think they have it pretty handedly. Ultra and Rocker, they had their fair share of goes last season in the CDL. I think the Rocker take it. I talked about how Kleenex and Cammy are going to have to step up. I think the talent on the Rocker is just a little bit better for opening weekend. I think they're going to handle it. And the last matchup, Optic Chicago versus LA Thieves. I already talked about this rivalry. It's not as big as everyone's making it out to be. It's Nadeshot versus Hex because Hex was his owner when he was a player. He's mentored him and helped him as he's grown LA Thieves. And that's how we have him now. And it'll be fun for Scump and Formal to compete against Nadeshot's team. But other than that, I don't think there's that much of a crazy storyline between the players here. I know TJ Haley was formerly on Optic. Slasher is there as well, and then Kenny. But other than that, I think that may be one of the best matchups of the weekend. I think I got to edge it out to Optic Chicago. So those are my predictions for the Kickoff Classic. It is going to be the Empire to win, Seattle Surge, Atlanta FaZe, Paris Legion, Minnesota Rocker, and Optic Chicago to round it out there. I think it's going to be a fun weekend. I'm extremely excited to have Call of Duty back in my life, and I know that all you guys are as well. It's tomorrow. It's upon us. It's today as you're listening to it. We're so lucky to be back here. The Call of Duty League is here. 4v4 is back. Black Ops Cold War is a great foundation for a game, and I leave you guys with this. It's the final segment, one of the new ones implemented this year. It's going to be who's the best in the game. Who is the best in the game? I love that legendary clip from Scumpy. We're talking about it. This is going to be a segment that goes on week to week from the best performance from a player, from a team, whatever it may be, from a weekend to major. We're going to keep it running every single week. Right now, we're talking about who's the best in the game. Categories are SMGs or flex players and AR. I think right now, best in the game is Shotzzy. Plain and simple. Over everyone, it's between him, Simp, Envoy, and Kenny, in my opinion. Those are the honorable mentions. But the passion that Shotzzy has, how he's learned the game already, the movement king, he is the best in the game. As the SMG side of things, AR, Octane, Dashy, Zinni, Skies, Awakening, I'm still sitting with Octane. I don't care how he's looked in scrims, anyone that's had him a little bit here and there. Just from last year and his track record, Octane, he is the best AR in the game. So Shotzzy and Octane are the best in the game. Everyone have a great time this kickoff weekend for the Call of Duty League. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Find me on Twitter at Zhack16, ZHACK16. It's been a blast talking to you guys. Tell me what you think in the comments. Make sure you stay connected, and we'll be back for podcasts all season long. It's been the Rotation Podcast with your boy Zhack. Everyone have a great Call of Duty League opening weekend. We'll see you next time. Peace.